We need to start this episode out with an admission. You see, in the tech review of the Cadillac XT4, I told you it was the first all-new Cadillac in 3 years. Well, as soon as I got back to the California Republic, Kumo pointed out that I was wrong. The Cadillac XT5 technically was introduced at the 2015 Los Angeles Auto Show, which was November of 2015, so that was 2 years and 10 months ago. Now, I understand that is a very pedantic piece of information from a large, white, fickle fuzzball, but it is germane to this discussion because this segment has totally changed in only 34 months. What used to be the bastion of the Q3 and the GLA and maybe the X1 now has a very, not just competent, but competitive Volvo in it. And this is a segment Cadillac didn't even compete in. So today, we have to do two things. Number one, understand, is this thing any good? And number two, is it competitive against a really competitive segment? Today, beautiful scenery, but we downshift into the world of baby buggy. So with that, let's put our foot into 237 horsepower, understand how it works in the Cadillac baby buggy. And it pulls pretty well, like more power than you would expect in a baby buggy, and B, something in this class. But there's something that smacks you across the face. Remember we talked about in the tech review how the torque comes in as low as 1,500 RPM. And yeah, we see that a lot, especially in like Hyundai Kia product. But this is a bit different. It has something to do more with that variable valve timing because it feels more like instantaneous. Like I put my foot into it, there isn't quite a delay. It doesn't need to work the 9-speed transmission as much to get that kind of power out of it. So in the tech review, I promised more talk about the all-wheel drive system. Now, if you are familiar with the Buick LaCrosse and the GMC Acadia, you know that there is a special clutch in the all-wheel drive system. And what it effectively does is it literally disengages the rear-wheel drive. So you know how all-wheel drive system, like the smart all-wheel drive, it sends the power to the wheels that lose the grip. So you really have no control if you're in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, whatever the hell you want to call it. Well, in this system that has now been pilfered from those two other cars, the clutch in the center of this vehicle, it is not a locking diff, it is a clutch that simply disengages the rear wheels. The logic being is you don't have drag on the engine, thus increasing fuel efficiency. But here's really the upside. The system is designed to be able to send 100% of the torque to any one of the back wheels. Now think of this as a basis of comparison. You look at the Haldex system, which has been subsequently purchased by Bosch. That system can only send up to 50% of the torque to the rear wheels. Think of like Golf R, Audi S3. This system, 100%. Well, we got a nice straight here. Let's go into sport mode, which also adds in all-wheel drive. Not 100% of the time, put our foot into it. You don't feel a significant difference in the pulling power. In other words, adding that rear-wheel drive to it doesn't make a big difference in the way it delivers power. Yes, traction, but not so much the way it delivers power. So you guys remember our friend Bob Boniface, you know, the guy that holds that incredibly cool party every summer up in Michigan where he gets his wife to agree to letting him have all his idiot friends over, me included, and bring cars and park them on his backyard, and we have White Castle and beer. Really, there's nothing finer. Well, there, you and I met a guy named Robin. Robin is a very cool designer, and it was his sketch that made this car. Well, the original sketch that Robin came up with had this really cool backlight where the metal, it was literally like this. It was almost like a V that was the backlight. You couldn't see anything out of it, but it was so cool. And I have a theory. If Bob Lutz was still running product at General Motors, this thing would have that very backlight that Robin dreamed up in his brain. If you agree with me, think of that as an additional question down in the comments. So made our way through Cadillac to Black Diamond here to find some twisty roads, and apparently the rain found us. Really did this so you and I could discuss driving dynamics, find some twisty roads. But before we do, I need to share that I was confused this morning. You see, in the presentations, they always tell us what they think their car is going to compete with. And Cadillac feels it's Q3, X1, GLA, and I'm looking at the car and listening to the presentation, I'm like, the proportions don't tell me any of those cars. And that's really kudos to the design. But as we talked about in the tech review, the wheelbase is spot on to some of those, and it's a full, 6 inches shorter than, say, an X3. But then you get behind the wheel of it, and you completely feel why this car competes with a GLA, Q3, and an X1. Like, put our foot into it going around turns like this, and I know it's not really designed for this. It's more softly sprung. I'd come around something really sharp like this, and it loses a bit of composure, much like the Q3, the X1, and the GLA. Is it a bad thing? No, it's designed for that specific audience. And this is in the tour mode, which is just front-wheel drive. So one more thing while I'm down here. There's a number of design tricks hidden here that you don't notice until you see the thing in person. Like, for example, the hood, there's a power bulge there. And you and I both know that is a transverse mounted 4-cylinder. You don't need a bulge for 4 cylinders going this way. So it's kind of a trick to change the proportions, which works because it makes me think this doesn't compete with Q3s and GLAs and other boring crossovers like that. And then one of the bigger tricks is look at the size of the wheel opening back here. It runs right into the door opening and to the bumper, but the logic is the bigger the wheel opening, it makes it look more chunky, more, dare I say, boy racerish, and that also changes the proportions in your eyes, and that is one of Robin's design tricks. So as we go around this aggressive turn here, one more important piece we've got to discuss in terms of driving dynamics, and that is the steering. There's no nice way to put this. It is entirely too light. I feel even for its intended purpose of driving the Rugrats around town. Granted, the kind of mommies that are going to be driving this thing are not going to be doing what I'm doing, but we drove it around town in Seattle, and I feel it's almost got a feeling of overboost. Now, there's a reason for that. The system itself is electro-hydraulic, and I don't think these are the first guys doing it, but the net effect is one of overboosted. The goal was to keep the steering feel the same, high altitude, low altitude, and have no drain off the engine, which gets back to the original goal of a 4-cylinder of getting higher fuel economy. But I think there was a cost here, and the steering feel isn't quite as natural, and this is where I would ask for some improvement. In absence of the Stinger missiles from the studio, I have the Pelican and Scotty's Prada bag. So we're going to do the test. I'm not proud, I really am not. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. 48.9 cubic feet. Scotty made me do it. I don't know if you guys can see from that angle there, but the camera in the rear view mirror, something I've played with before, but this is the first time I'm spending all day with it, and it's quite addictive. Like, it's like the switch from your 4x3 TV to 16:9. It's that big of a difference. So as I was driving in and around Seattle, Scotty was pilfering through the glove box and found this, an itty-bitty baby version of the Monroney. So it dawned on me, why should Porsche, BMW, and Mercedes have all the fun? Let's play a mini round of the options game with a Cadillac. 2019 XT4 all-wheel drive Sport. Base price, $39,295. Not so bad. Then you got to add the all-wheel drive. Twin clutch system, $2,500. Then that very fancy orange paint looks great in person, $625. Then there are a lot of packages. There is comfort and convenience, enhanced visibility, technology, driver assist, cold weather, and driver awareness. I don't know why you need driver awareness and driver assist, but all those separate packages add up to $8,070. Then there are individual options, some very important, like the power sunroof, $1,500. The adjustable suspension, $1,200. The very cool-looking 20-inch wheels with a satin finish, $1,100. Navigation system, $1,500. Then, oh, look at that. The Bose center point system is free. And then destination charge, $995 for a total vehicle price of $56,835 for a compact luxury crossover. I'm just gonna leave that right here. You talk amongst yourselves. In the presentation, the Cadillac folks went on and on and on about the extra space in the rear for the rear passengers. And for the most part, I kind of agree, because there is, as you can see, some knee room here if a 6-footer would be sitting here, because this is where I would put the seat if I was there. There are two things that I feel room for improvement, let's call it. Number one, the seats themselves could use to be scooped out a bit more to provide a bit more knee room here. And number two, I feel like I'm too upright. Like the seat back angle, I'm like this, and it really emphasizes the stadium seating. I can see over Scotty, which is lovely outside of Seattle, but something tells me that it needs like a recline back here. Most of these cars have it. I'm surprised this one does not. Then while we're back here, some functional stuff. Number one, it's got the armrest with cup holders here. There's a cup holder back here. And the general stuff we saw in the tech review, the actual build quality, it extends nicely back here with, you got the material on the top of the door panels here with a contrast stitch, which is always a nice touch. And then something very fancy, which I don't expect. Yes, Jill Simonella would be very happy. There is a power port for your USB device, but it's not just regular USB, there's USB-C as well. So Android, or folks like me that have been forced it into the USB-C world from the Apple MacBooks, that is now in the front and the back in the XT4. And then, oh, it's kind of a little chilly this morning, so heated seats in the back, that always helps. And then the headrests back here, they fold down so Scotty can see out if I'm not back here. Overall, very comfortable place to be. Now, I think I'm gonna focus more on Seattle. You and I kicked off this episode with two rather disparate tasks. Number one, is this thing any good? And number two, is it competitive in a segment that is growing so fast? For the first part, I'm not going to mince words here. This exceeds expectations, but not in like the usual areas of driving dynamics, because if you've seen my CTSV or ATSV episodes, you know I'm very biased towards Cadillacs because of Dave Leone. This is not a 640 horsepower sedan, so it's designed for a completely different kind of person than me. And for that intended target, the driving dynamics are really good, but the focus, it didn't need to be there. Where it exceeds expectations is things that you and I have been beating on Cadillac for a long time. Tactile feel. You sit inside it, it feels like the standard of the world again. It's better than pretty much anything else out there in terms of tactile feel on the inside. That brings us to competitive landscape. And here, again, I'm not going to mince words. The Q3 is an awful vehicle. It was designed for an engineering price point to lease it at a specific price point. The GLA is a bit better, especially as a GLA 45. This is now a two-horse race, this compact luxury crossover. It's the Volvo XC40 and this. And I would argue the Volvo edges out the Cadillac just a bit more in driving dynamics, but when it comes to tactile feel and quality of materials on the inside, the Cadillac is better. Where they have a stalemate is in the thoughtfulness of the interior, because frankly, that's what these cars are about. The kind of people like Scotty who are gonna hang their bag off the glove box or put their shopping and they don't want it like moving around like a Turkish bazaar. Both of them have that thoughtfulness, but they have different ways in which they do it. Like the Volvo has the places to hang everything, even off the glove box, where the Cadillac is a bit more high-tech in that it's got USB-C throughout the vehicle. It's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So there's thoughtfulness in both, but it's just a different approach. So the reality is, driving, Volvo. Overall package and definitely design, Cadillac. With that, I'm gonna turn this around to you and put the same decision in front of you. You only get to choose between the Volvo and the Cadillac. Forget the Q3, forget, you know what? I'm gonna be nice. why would you choose the Q3 over the Volvo or the Cadillac? And then between the two, which one would you choose, the Volvo or the Cadillac, and why? Let me know if you drive a vehicle like this and what region of the world you hail from, and what are you doing with it, like putting Rugrats in it. Let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV on Word, MotoManTV on Word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, Kumo, he got a Mazda Miata MX-5 RF with 181 horsepower while I was away. So I need to make up for some lost time. Till I see you next time, bis später.